Daly describes that a steady state should develop policy to stabilize population, policy for the maintenance of a certain stock of artifacts, and policy to address inequality. For the first, Daly considers marketable birth licenses, an idea that I'm hesitant to embrace, to put it mildly. Why not start with the free distribution of condoms? And as we could see in the first lecture of the series, population growth is no longer an issue in most countries and expected to level globally in the near future. And second, the focus on population growth is somewhat false when it comes to climate change. That is, the world's richest 1% cause double carbon dioxide emissions of the poorest 50%, says Oxfam. With respect to governing resource use, Daly clearly favored cap, auction, and trade. As he puts, quantitative limits are set with reference to ecological and ethical criteria, and the price system is then allowed by action and exchange to allocate depletion quotas efficiently. In a beautiful critique, Bergmeier argues that steady-state economics consists in an attempt to squeeze neoclassical economics into a biophysical and ethical corset. And later she writes that introducing a hypothetical when to stop rule on the macro level, as if growth could be assumed away, distracts from facing economic realities. Bergmeier highlighted unsustainable lock-ins and transition pathways as fruitful areas for future research. And I wanted to mention a third here in Exnovation. Davidson writes about this. New scientific findings cataloging the need for a rapid renewable energy transition are most often met with calls for innovation. Our failure to address climate change and thereby avoid the socio-economic crisis it foretells will not be attributed to a lack of innovation, however, but rather to a lack of exnovation. In addition to advocating cap, auction, and trade, Daly advocated controlling throughput at the input end. Similarly, the report by Stiglitz and Stern et al. We have seen earlier in the series gave an example of such a policy. In energy importing countries such as Morocco, where 90% of the energy and roughly all of the fossil fuels are imported, tax collection can be accomplished by merely monitoring the ports of entry, making a carbon tax easier to administer and enforce than other mitigation instruments or taxes. You may have noticed that Morocco is featured more often in my lectures. Perhaps it is because I met my wife there. And probably it is also a little bit for the reason that I went to Agadir for a climate conference. Morocco is one of the most ambitious countries when it comes to climate change at the moment, as can be seen from the following clip by Climate Tracker.